Welcome back to the Entrepreneur's Blueprint. I am so glad you're here. And I just have to start off by saying I don't know what allergies have done to me this year, but my voice is still so weak. My vocal cords, I just cannot seem to get them back to my normal strength. If you have any tips, please tell me because it's starting to drive me crazy. I just don't feel like when I talk, I am talking like myself or nearly as nearly as confident. Sorry, I had to change my if you're watching this, I was adjusting my video, but I'm just not able to talk as well as I would like. So anyway, thanks for sticking with me anyway. I appreciate it. Okay. So today we're going to talk about something that most founders know they need to do and they keep finding reasons not to. So we're talking about the hard conversation, the one you've been circling, the one you've rewritten in your head 100 times and you still haven't had it with that person. I'm going to share a personal story and then I'm going to give you 2 frameworks that you can actually use. And by the end of this episode, you're going to know exactly what to do. Whether you need to correct someone, challenge someone, we're covering both. So let's get into it. So when I was working in the corporate world, I was managing at one point a team of 5 individuals. And one of those individuals was I would say more emotional in general than the average person, very passionate, very loyal, but I just continued. There were certain issues and certain red flags that I would continue to see, but I continued to just kick the can down the road and not address them full on right away. The biggest issue was number one, not addressing it right away because I let it go on and I didn't nip it in the bud as soon as I needed to. If I would have done it right away, number one, I think the relationship would have been a lot stronger and our working relationship would have been. And number two, it would have just saved our team and other people downstream that we collaborated with. It would have saved a lot of heartache. It would have removed a lot of just hard situations that we came against. And so I regret number one, not getting on top of it sooner. And then number two, and just the confidence. I wish I would have had more confidence to approach the whole situation differently. And now I know that, right? Like now I had that experience. I needed that experience to be able to say, oh, I have to do this right away. It's very similar. I always say to our kids, well, it's a saying they say at their school, obey right away, all the way, yada, yada. My daughter always corrects me. I always just say to her, obey all the way, right away. And it's kind of like talk to the employee right away, all the way. Like don't leave the stone unturned. You have to cover it right away. So anyway, this situation just like I said, has taught me something and I haven't ever forgotten it. I continually think back to this situation. The longer I waited, the more I owned the outcome. My silence was not neutral. My silence was a choice, and it was frankly making things worse. And here's what I know about you. There is probably someone on your team right now you are working around. You know who it is. You've been knowing. Maybe you're rewriting their work before it goes out. Maybe you're handling client relationships they should own. Maybe there's a pattern you've seen for months and you keep telling yourself, it'll get better, it'll get better. Or you keep waiting for the right time. Oh, it's not the right time to talk to them. Or you're just really hoping it resolves itself without you having to say anything. I can tell you from experience, it won't. And the longer you wait, the fewer good options you have. What could have been a 5-minute conversation in the spring turns into a termination in the fall. That's not a dramatic overstatement. That's just how it goes. So let's name what's actually happening when founders avoid hard conversations. It is not kindness. I know it feels like kindness. It can even look like kindness from the outside, but avoiding a hard conversation does not protect your team member. It protects you from a moment of discomfort while the situation quietly gets worse. It's a lot easier. It feels a lot easier in the moment to avoid discomfort. And I think that's true, at least for me, in every aspect of my life. It's been something that's been really hard for me to overcome. But the person on the other side of that dynamic almost always knows that something is off. They can feel distance. They notice you've stopped giving them certain projects. They see the way you pause before you answer them. And when no one tells them what's actually wrong, they feel the silence themselves, usually with something that's worse than the truth. So you're not doing them a favor. You're leaving them in a fog and hoping it lifts on its own. There's also a cost to the rest of your team that rarely gets talked about. When one person is underperforming and leadership doesn't address it, everyone else sees it. The people who are showing up, doing the work, holding the standard, they are watching. And what they take away from your silence is that standard is optional. That is a leadership problem that spreads. And that hard conversation is not the unkind option, avoidance is. As Brene Brown says, clear is kind and unclear is unkind. So before we get into the how, I want to talk about the who. Specifically, who do you need to be when you walk into that room? If you've been running your business with a gut feeling that something is off, but you have no idea where to actually look, or maybe you love the work you're doing, but you're constantly tired because of it, this is for you. I want to build you a roadmap. 90 minutes together, we'll review where you stand against the Monarch Method framework and build a plan for exactly what needs to happen to get you there. Within a week, you'll know what's first, what's second, and what can wait. I only have 3 spots open this month, so visit monarch.com/ops-health-check today to sign up and get your roadmap. We'll also link it in the show notes. You're going to open your laptop on Monday morning and actually know what you're doing. You're going to sit down at dinner with your family, and your mind is actually going to stay there. Your team does not need a cheerleader. They need a coach. A cheerleader affirms, but a coach develops you. A cheerleader makes you feel good about who you are and where you are. A coach makes you better at where you're going. And if your feedback loop is exclusively positive, you are not actually managing them. You are just keeping the peace. I want to tell you about someone who did this really, really well for me in my career. It was basically my first boss outside of college. I actually worked part-time there in college as well, but he did such a good job of constantly coaching me. Like I really think almost every single day I had coaching nuggets from him of like, hey, if you did this, it would be better, XYZ. It was this constant flow of information. I never once had this feeling of, oh, he's telling me this because I'm not doing a good enough job. It was never that. It always was to make me better. And so I remember one example of him coaching me about if something bad happens in the business or something hard or we fail or like, yeah, something bad happens. If you react emotionally to that and you react in a big way, the rest of the team is going to react that way too. You are a leader and they're looking to you for how you're going to respond. So you need to be calm, cool, and collected so that they respond similarly. That was an example. I never once was like, he never made me feel down on myself. It was like, oh, this is an opportunity for growth and I'm going to take it. I think about that experience with that boss every time I have to have a hard conversation with someone on my team, because what he modeled for me was that direct and warm are not opposites. You can be both. You can be honest and still be rooting for the person. But warm without honest isn't leadership. It's just being nice, and nice doesn't make people better. The most impactful leaders your team will ever have are the ones who said something hard and said it clearly, not cruelly, clearly. There is a difference and it matters. So the first framework is for when there is a real issue, a behavior, a performance gap, a pattern that has to change. This is not the framework for a bad day or an isolated mistake. This is for the thing you've been watching for a while and need to address it directly. It has 3 parts. Number 1, aspiration. Number 2, observation. Number 3, interpretation. Aspiration is where you start. Before you name the problem, you name what you believe about the person, what you know they care about, what you've seen them want. This is not flattery to soften the blow. It's grounding the conversation in what's still possible instead of staring at what's broken. It also signals that you are not there to tear them down. You are there because you believe something better is available to them. So here's what this sounds like. This is aspiration. It sounds like, hey, I know you care about doing good work here. Or, hey, I've watched you want to grow in this role, and I think you want to be someone this team can count on. Say the true thing. Start there. The next is observation. It's where you name the specific behavior, not the person, not your interpretation yet, just what you've actually seen. This is where a lot of leaders get vague, and vague feedback is really easy to dismiss. If you say, I just feel like you're not fully engaged, that's not something the other person can do anything with. But if you say, when you miss a deadline without flagging it in advance, or maybe you say, when you're not prepared for our weekly check ins, now you have something specific, something real, something harder to deflect. Name what you have actually observed. Be as precise as possible. The third is interpretation. This is where you close the gap between what they intended and what actually landed. Most people genuinely do not know the downstream effect of their behavior until someone tells them. This is your job to tell them. So it sounds like this. It makes me think this project isn't a priority for you. Or I interpret that as you not fully owning this role yet. Or you're starting to get a reputation on the team as someone who doesn't follow through. The last one is a really hard thing to say, but say it anyways. If it's true, they need to hear it from you before they hear it from someone else, or before it costs them more than it already has. After you've worked through all three, you land the standard. What specifically needs to change and when it needs to change by, and what the path forward looks like if they do. You are not trying to make them feel bad. You are giving them a clear picture of where they are and a real shot at changing it. Let me walk you through a practical example so you can hear what this sounds like in an actual conversation. Say you have a team member who consistently turns in work late, and when you ask about it, they frame it as being a perfectionist, like, oh, I just wanted it to be right. It sounds almost admirable, except it's causing problems downstream and you've addressed it more than once. So the conversation could sound like this. Hey, I know you care about quality, and I've seen that. It matters to me too. But when the work comes in late without any advance notice, it backs up the whole production schedule and it puts the rest of the team in a tough spot. I interpret the pattern as you prioritizing your own process over the team's timeline, even if that's not your intention. This has to change. Starting with the next deadline, I need either the work on time or a heads up at least 48 hours in advance. Can you tell me what's been getting in the way? This is specific, direct, and still human, and that's the target. Now, I want to give you a completely different framework because not every hard conversation is about a problem. Sometimes the conversation is hard because there is no problem. The person is performing well, and you need them to perform bigger. And founders do not know how to say, you're good, I just need you to be more, without it sounding like good was never actually enough. So they don't say it. They just sit quietly, wish the person would step up, and the person keeps operating at the level they were hired for because no one told them there was a higher ceiling available. This framework has three parts as well. Affirm, name the next level, and ask the unlocking question. Affirm first. Be specific about what they're doing well and what it's producing, not generic praise, actual evidence of impact. The way you run our Monday meetings has cut our decision-making time in half. The team is more aligned because of what you've built there. That's a real thing you are saying about a real result, and that's what makes it land. The next is name the next level. Describe what operating one level above looks like to them. You are not describing them as falling short. You are describing the target. The next version of this role is someone who isn't just running the process, but improving it. Who's flagging where it's breaking down before I see it? Who's coming to me with a proposed solution, not just a problem? You're painting a picture, give them something to move toward. The third is ask the unlocking question. This is not a to-do list that you hand them. This is a question designed to shift how they think about what they are capable of. So it might sound like this. What would have to be true for you to own that level of the role? Or where do you feel under-equipped right now? Or what's one thing you've been waiting for permission to do? That last question does a lot of work because more often than not, the person has already been thinking bigger. They've just been waiting for a signal that it was okay to go there. Here is the practical example for this one. If you have an operations manager who is excellent, she executes everything you put in front of her, but she never surfaces problems proactively. She does not come to you with solutions unprompted. She runs the playbook and she runs it well, and you need her to start writing the next playbook. The conversation could sound like this. Hey, I want to talk about where you're headed in this role because I think there's a bigger version of it available to you. The way you've executed our systems this year has been genuinely excellent. The team runs better because of you. The next level of what I need looks like someone who's not just executing the system, but interrogating it, noticing where it's breaking, and coming to me with a proposed fix before it becomes a problem that I have to solve. What would have to be true for you to start operating that way? What do you need from me to help get you there? That's a different kind of hard conversation, but it's one most founders avoid. Stop avoiding it because your best people are waiting for it. I want to take a minute here because I think there's something worth naming for those of us who lead from a faith perspective. Ephesians 4:15 tells us to speak the truth in love. And I think we often use that verse to justify staying soft when what it's actually calling us to is stay honest. Speaking the truth in love does not mean softening the truth until it's unrecognizable. It means delivering the truth in a way that honors the dignity of a person in front of you. Those two things can coexist. In fact, they have to if you want to lead well. The hardest conversations I've had with team members were also some of the most loving things I've done in my professional life. Because I treated them like adults who could handle honesty and grow from it, that's what it looks like to lead with both truth and love. So here's your homework. Number one, I'm going to provide for you just a digital download of the steps that we just talked about in this podcast episode so that you don't have to write a million notes. I'm going to provide them for you. So I will provide a link to sign up for that document in the show notes. So I want you to identify one conversation you've been avoiding, just one. Decide which framework applies to that conversation. Is this an accountability conversation or a growth conversation? Write out your observation and your interpretation before you go in. Speak it out loud before you sit down with them. You are more prepared than you think. You just have to stop waiting for a version of this that doesn't feel uncomfortable. That version doesn't exist. The discomfort is part of it. And it passes faster than you think. The more reps you get in, the easier it's going to become. You can do hard things. That is part of what it means to lead. Thank you so much for being here and for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please reach out and let me know. You could even write a review and tell someone which episode you loved because it will help them find a good place to start and help share my show with others as well. Thanks again for listening. I'll talk to you next week.